Welcome to the first episode of Convasations, where your Boston native and Rhode Island transplant realtor, roller skating realtor, is here to just talk about a little bit of everything. You know, I don't have an agenda. My first guest and my co-host today, because hopefully this will be something that we can both use, is Kim Douglas. Kim is like one of my favorite, my favorite, but we have a lot of friends in Boston, so you know, my favorite real estate agent in your area, Charleston, Cambridge.
Yes. Yep.
So tell everyone, who are you?
Yeah. My name is Kim Douglas. I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and we met through through a networking event that we would go to together of all these great, awesome women who work out together, sweat together, and then drink or whatever we happen to do afterwards. And it's just a lot of fun. And you and I just like, the first day we met,
I said, who is that? And Sam Steinagent, second time I'm going to talk about Sam on a podcast, says, oh, that is like the lesbian real estate agent of Boston. And I was like, well, I got to know her. Excuse me, we can bleep out. I need to know her. And I like, wouldn't let you go. You were like, it was so nice to meet you. And then I was like, what's your number?
We're having coffee or dinner or something.
We went in at dinner. Yeah. And I was like, and you told me about your podcast. Now, share. So,
there it is.
Bold Like Her podcast.
Yes.
1 year ago, actually, this week.
Yeah.
From when this will air. I was on your podcast.
Yeah,
and the episode was episode 70.
Yeah.
Manifestation is real.
It is, and boy, so much has changed for you in that year, right? You were a fabulous guest, so much fun. All of a sudden, you started singing for me. I had no idea you could do that. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. You started belting out a song.
You inspired me so much in that podcast because you said something to me. I was listening to it this morning. I'm going to tear up like 10 times during this today. You said to me, you can just do it. Like, you can just go on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube and you can just be passionate about something and do it. And I think what I had been like waiting for, is this moment where someone was like, you're important enough now to be out there. And you don't need anyone to tell you they're important enough.
Just you need to tell you that.
You need to tell you you're important enough, right? So it's interesting. I've been telling this story. I did stand-up comedy for the first time the other night.
What can't you do?
I don't know yet. I'm waiting to find out,
That's amazing. It's just a great point to what we were just talking about. Just get out there and do it.
You know what I can't do? I can't fail.
There you go.
Because, and this is kind of my message. I think this is why I've wanted to start this podcast this Concast, if you will, for as long as I have, is because there's a lot of things that have transpired in my life. And what I throw on social media is definitely the happier version of the hard parts, right? Like, I'm not saying everything I post is happy-go-lucky, but I think I do try to keep a level of optimism there.
Yeah.
And the way that my life has gone has shown me that if you spend the time being fearful of failing, that energy could have been used for anything else.
Right.
And so I just keep trying to replace those things, right? So the story I told at stand up on my first.
I'm dying.
I actually went up in my roller skates.
That's a new thing for you.
That's
too,
about 12 weeks.
And you're crushing.
Listen, I'm crushing my ass while I crush it. But, it was funny. So I went up in my roller skates, and my opening joke, which like timing is everything in comedy. I didn't have it that night.
You didn't fall, did you?
No, but I was like, I was trying to pretend to lose my balance as a funny thing, but lost my balance while trying to pretend to lose my balance. And my opening line was, I gave up alcohol for roller skating, which I'm 116 days sober today.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I've never talked about it on my social media platform. It's been a private journey that I'm ready to talk about because it's been so amazing.
Good for you.
But then listen, this audience is a PG-13 audience. I gave up roller skating. I traded alcohol for roller skating, and now I've given up dick for roller skating. I'm on a dick diet.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's what it is now.
Oh my God, I am living in my Leslie. So let's just throw it all out there. It's the last day of Pride.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering Catholic. I'm also, finally comfortable enough to say to anyone watching this, but not my immediate family, they're going to have to find out this way, that I actually am not just an ally, I'm a member.
I remember you telling me this. I mean,
yeah.
On my podcast, we were talking about how one of my girlfriends had come out to me on the podcast.
Always on a podcast,
Yeah, and it's just things start to just shed away when you're doing this. And we talked about doing a gay girl brunch or something. This is what she wanted to do, and you must have listened to it.
She said so what she said was, I want a gay girl brunch. And I think that it was I just want gay women there because I just want to be in a community of people where I feel safe and loved and protected was the message she was giving.
Because she's new and she wants to know that, she's been hiding herself from all these people. So that's why she wanted to feel kind of patted by her people.
I was driving to, I think I was driving on the North Shore, so it was one of the reverse commute you did this morning, right?
Yeah.
Poor Kim was I'll be there at 9.
I'm sorry.
9:30. 9:45, and I was perfect because I planned my morning with you being late, so it's great.
Mind you, it's holiday weekend getting started, and everybody's going everywhere.
Yeah, totally didn't think about any of that. And so, what I texted you was, can I come to Gay Girl Brunch? I know I'm not gay, but can I come? And you were like, you're an ally.
You're an ally. So I wanted you to be, I said, anybody who's that cool, supporting, loving.
And so I think part of my journey in the last year has really been about, for me, this is my personal story, and we all have our personal stories of our evolution of self. I was like, maybe you should just look into this whole, you like kissing girls sometimes as less than of a phase. It's been 15 years. So I don't know that it's still a phase.
Okay.
I don't know that I see myself in a relationship with a woman.
But you definitely can appreciate that.
Women are beautiful.
Yeah.
Women are gorgeous. Women exude sensuality and sexuality. And there's something about that safety, I think, in a woman that a lot of other women find. And so I just want to share to everybody, in my life, if you have those kind of feelings and you were brought up Catholic or in a very conservative, as my mother puts it, oh, honey, if you are bisexual, I support you. Just don't tell your family because they're very, very judgmental.
I love your mom.
We talked about mom last time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, mom, my mother has come so far.
I see that.
In her life.
Supportive of you, right?
Yeah, but her life was so tough. And that's a story for another podcast and another Concast on another day. But a lot of people who follow me know my mom's story, part of it at least. And to see where that woman's journey is today. And it was all Autumn. Autumn changed the story for so many of us, right?
Yeah.
So a year ago, I was on your podcast and we talked about a lot of stuff.
Right.
Manifestation was the biggest one though, right? We talked about, have you seen manifestation come up in your life? Have you had a moment where you have changed the script just by your thinking?
Yeah, you know what? It's very interesting that you say that because I'm one to, dream boards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first got into real estate, we talked all about, putting your dream board up, what does it look like for you? And I didn't realize that I had actually been doing that throughout my life, whether it was just a picture of a car or a trip or whatever.
You Pinterest, but in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would be on my fridge, and damn if I didn't make all those things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I can't say that the really big things are, maybe if I really get into it, but for sure, little things that I've wanted, I've made them happen.
There's so many studies now coming out, and we're just in a different era, especially after 2020, right, with mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Gratitude is an actual form of medication. It was January 2021 when our friend Sam she gave me a gratitude journal at a little girl's brunch. Sounds so weird. I was at a woman's brunch for
I saw
for
that.
Christmas.
I missed it. And
and we would have met then, but we ended up meeting anyway.
Yeah.
Right, and I remember reading it. I can't think of the author of this book, and I can link it below, but there was this opening statement that said, a manifestation, I believe it said, was like a dream with a sports bra on. You just Gratitude. So part of my journey in the past year and a half, and psychotherapy has been a part of it. I highly recommend if you've been in talk therapy for a long time. I did that for 18 years. Psychotherapy, EMDR is a whole other world for another day again. These are all the topics you can expect to find on Concast, on Convasations. These more forward ways of thinking. I believe in being able to have controversial conversations. I am going to use my name in everything. Yeah. There's a theme. And whoever comes on my show, I want them to feel comfortable in their boundaries and what they're willing to talk about. But I really feel there's like a message right now. We talked about a year ago, about how we felt like there was this women's movement going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been years in the making, right? Yeah. And it's been just so cool to watch women growing, being forces, and now coming together and supporting one another, right?
Yep.
And that, to me, you cannot beat it. And there's room for everybody to do their thing, to be successful, and to be supported and uplifted by the other women around them.
There is no scarcity mentality, I think, now when it comes to most women. And there are some women that are still stuck in that, listen, every day lately when I post something online, I get that little voice inside, like it's my mother from when I'm 12 years old, like, Connie, people are going to talk about you. They're talking about you, Connie. And, that comes from a place of love for most people, because their own fear of how the world will perceive them. They feel that fear for you, right? They're empathetic to the danger of being different and putting yourself out there and living a life that is not as safe as, I am a millennial. You're a generation, I think you're just a couple of months older than me.
Yeah. For sure, exactly.
Just a couple of months. As a millennial, I came out of college, we talked about this, I came out of college in 2009, no jobs.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that. I was like, Britney Spears just shaved her head. I was like, what's happening in the world? Britney Spears shaved her head. Not like there's a global crisis, there's an economic crisis.
Yeah.
So there's a trend on TikTok, and it's kind of like millennials just coming out with like all the things we were told as kids.
Right.
That are actually not true, that we have lived our life by. Like, I will still not go swimming after I eat a sandwich at the beach.
That was around even for
They're
me.
They're going to drown, right?
The few months earlier that I was born, right?
Yeah.
They were still saying that to us. You got to wait 30 minutes.
You got to wait 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Don't hold your face like that. It'll stay that way.
Yesterday I was eating like a big wad of gum, and it was Mentos gum, and I was like, this tastes so good. And I was like, it was Mentos. So at first I thought it was, I could swallow it. And I was like, it's gum. And I thought to myself, doesn't it take 7 years for gum to digest? And then I was like, wait a minute, that is such an insane thought, but is it real? And I had to Google it, and I was today years old yesterday when I found out that gum does, in fact, not take 7 years. So if you didn't know this, and you are part of the 61% of my polling on Instagram, that you did not know that was just another thing that they told millennials.
Yeah.
The other thing they told millennials was that if we spent all this money on college education, and we went to school, and then we came out and got married and had babies, that we could live a beautiful life. And I think if you polled most millennials in America, we would tell you that theory is flawed.
Yeah.
Coming out of college to an economic crisis, living through that. I was saying yesterday, I feel like the 90s, like we're coming back into the 90s, but with Google, right? Like with resources.
Right.
I was listening to Fly by Sugar Ray yesterday, driving to New Hampshire,
90s.
Thinking to like, what, I had a 90s station on, and all this diverse music, all of these artists, and thinking about kind of what the 90s stood for. The 90s really were a time where you could kind of be grunge, you could be hip hop, you could be, you could just be in your own element. People kind of accepted it.
Yeah.
And I think 9/11 really just shook the world up, where we had all this change, and for 20 years we lived in this new world, and then COVID hit. And now we've just got thrown back into who are we?
Well, I know.
Who are we?
It seems like that kind of thing has started to happen over the past few years, even before COVID.
Right.
and
the equilibrium of the universe.
Right, and the things that I'm starting to see, we thought we were making a lot of progress, and in a lot of ways we are, but as we know, in the past week, like we just got snapped.
Can we go there for a second?
Sure,
Can we go there? Yeah. So I think it's important to educate people on actually what Roe v. Wade stood for. I had a lot of women reach out to me that I talked to because, I've been an activist now for about a week. Yeah. I've now been, I've now felt what it's like to not have the same rights as other people in this country, and it's shook me to my core. It's made me sit there and worry about, will you not follow me? Will you be mad at what I have to say? I've had some horrendous things said to me over the last 7 days online in messages from family members, friends who have a different opinion than me. And I'm still okay with sharing my opinion. So right. Roe v. Wade was, and I don't know if you want to speak about on this point, if you can speak to this more eloquently than I can, please take the floor on what Roe v. Wade was for the American woman.
Well, basically, it allowed for women to have the right to choose whether or not they were going to carry a baby to full term. I mean, that's it. Basically,
and it's a hard subject, right? And I want to be really clear that this does not have to be a subject on abortion right now. What this can be a subject about is how kind of overnight, like, people came with cloaks on in the night and changed a policy that was there for 50 years.
Right, and that's where we're saying we're going backwards, right?
It's a policy that affected 51% of the American population. You now have, this is not a black and white issue like BLM was. This is not a issue where it's
men versus women, which I started to see a lot of things happening online where it was almost like, penning, men against women, and men should get vasectomies and all this, and it's not about that at all.
Right, and I'll touch on that. So what it is, it's not men versus women, it's men and women versus the government in telling us what to do with our bodies. So the one thing, I've actually thrown the vasectomy thing out there quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the only thing I've said about it is I don't think that this is an eye for an eye situation. We're not going to make men get vasectomies because the other option is I have to take a unwanted or unplanned pregnancy to full term, right? The topic of conversation is I want the men in my life to be as outraged as if they woke up on Friday morning and were told that they had to get vasectomies.
Right.
Because next to abstinence is exactly the second most effective way to prevent unwanted pregnancies. Mm-hmm. It's reversible, it's less invasive, it's an office procedure. And so when we think about where these policies come from, right? And our country was founded 300 years ago. We are a different community. 300 years ago, and this is my answer to anyone who wants to speak on this subject and just feel like you are more well-versed in it. And please do your own research. Do not take a tagline that was paid for an advertisement for a news company and go with what that says. The worst thing you can do is share an article without reading it and then checking the facts.
Yeah. And even my, my description of what that is my basic knowledge of that, right?
Correct. Yeah. There it goes deeper. And,
of course. Yeah.
It is the basic of the basic. But, my ask for everyone is to consider on the most broad scale that depending on where my foot lies on a line in the country, really is going to decide whether or not I have autonomy to my body and the medical decisions, right, that are going to happen with that body. And I think the most important thing to consider when someone says it was never your constitutional right to kill an innocent life, it was never my constitutional right actually in America to have any rights as a woman.
Yeah.
We were,
go back to that, right?
Listen, the Constitution was written with the word persons. It never identified a gender or a sex. However, what it also did not do is give us rights. It wasn't until 1921, 101 years ago, mm-hmm. we got rights to be considered enough of citizens to have a say in what happened in the country. And so what I was telling Kim earlier in like the most emphatic way possible because of my new obsession with skating, 12 weeks in, number one, the thing I love about skating is it brings back our ability to play. It's not a competition. You can be, derbies out there, but to be honest with you, when we think, I've had people say like, oh my God, I did that when I was a kid, or oh my God, that's what when I was a kid. I met a guy at the grocery store yesterday. I think he's in his 60s or 70s. he used to skate where I skate when he was a kid. And we talked about how, I think when you think about what ignites passion and creativity when we're children is just play without process and play without goals. Like as adults, especially millennial adults, we were taught that there's supposed to be an end of the line, right? There's supposed to be, you get something, you finish, and you move on to the next goal. You went to high school and then college, and then you got married, and then you had babies, and then you worked your 9 to 5 and you retired, and you go on with your life. That isn't working. And so my love for skating has opened up my eyes to a lot of things. So the civil rights movement in skating actually had a wonderful, transformative cultural connection. The women's rights movement took from that. The women's rights movement is the only movement in America, please, if you know differently, please use my comment section to educate, that used peaceful protesting as a way to create change. Mm-hmm. And I think we can do it again.
Yeah, and you want to do it with your skates on?
I want to do it with my skates on.
I love that you picked this up. How'd you get into it?
Instagram.
Yeah?
There is a power to social media that's not all evil.
Oh, I know.
I
love it.
I came, when I came out of, so a lot of people have asked me, like, I've been trying to figure out your Instagram for a year. What's going on? I am divorced, 2 days ago would have been my 3-year anniversary to my wedding.
Good for you. And I'll just tell you, while you take a moment for yourself, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
And you've come so far. And when you were talking about your Instagram and people trying to figure it out, I watch it knowing you and knowing the conversations that we've had, mm-hmm. and I'm watching you blossom. And I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing, with a divorce and social media and being in the eyes of so many people. And that balance of like, what does success look like? What does professionalism look like? Mm-hmm. There was definitely a lot of, I got a lot of backlash on some of the things,
okay.
Some of the things that I posted, the raw things that I talked about on Instagram back in November and December, without talking about what was happening in my life specifically. I was clearly posting about a new house that I was living in.
Right.
And a new life, and I think people were trying to figure out, but there were definitely some posts that were more raw and they were more open about where I was emotionally and mentally, and there was a lot of, you shouldn't do that. It's going to affect your career. It's going to affect people thinking you're stable enough to buy and sell their house. It's going to, being a human being and being a professional, for a long time, those two have not coexisted.
But with the advent of social media, now, listen, unless you're just posting, I just sold this, I just listed this, that's
which
kind of
no hate to if that's your story, but it's not mine.
I will say to you, I watch some people that I know and love and admire who have businesses, and I can think of one in particular who literally said on social media that I started to get more business when I showed the real me. Yeah, because we can now.
Yeah.
Like before this, there was no avenue.
It's okay for me
really
to say,
that.
you know what? That showing you want to go to tomorrow, I don't have a babysitter. Do you mind if I bring my daughter?
Yeah.
That's why I got into this business, right? Like for that flexibility. I remember I started my journey at KW and they said, what is your why?
Yeah.
And my why was freedom. Freedom from those ties and restrictions of corporate media, corporate jobs, corporate rules on who I had to be in the public. And so now I get to, listen, there are going to be some of you out there who don't like what I have to say, whether it be on this Concast or the next. I have to be okay with the fact that my message won't be well received by everybody, but I'm more okay with the fact that those who it are well received by are probably the people I would have worked with anyways to begin with.
Agreed.
This is just putting me in front of you. So like when my boss wants me to cold call, I'm like, no, I'm going to do a Concast and talk to people on the internet, There is, and I think what I want to show people, and this is not just a women's podcast, like we need men. We need men more than ever. All of them. Where are you? Kim, Trust me, Kim. I know that you're not. I know that you don't have a ton of experience in this. You were married once
I was
to a man,
and I have some very special men in my life.
You do.
I like to joke.
You know, it is, of course. But that's the thing. Like, it's not men versus women.
Exactly.
It's people versus the idea that the government should tell us what to do with our bodies. I think peaceful protest and getting our word out there.
And they play a role in that too.
They do.
Clearly.
They do.
Because it's not happening.
You can tell me it's a state issue all day, but guess what? So was gay rights originally. So were civil rights. You know, and if you started, listen, this is gonna be the most controversial thing I say, and I'm gonna pull it back. But it started with a mask, went to a vaccine, and now it's a uterus. I'm gonna say it. What's next? And if your penis is next, you're gonna outrage. You're gonna roar. So, you know, what I think I'll leave it with too, and from a personal note for who I am, you know, I want women to know that, like, you have a way out. If 100 years ago, your great-grandmother and great-grandfather could work a construction job, have 8 kids, the woman could stay home. She could be a family homemaker, and the man could go to work, and you could survive that way.
Yeah.
Show me an electrician or contractor right now who can have 8 kids with his wife at home.
Right.
Unless you're in Newport building houses or in Boston.
Yeah.
It's not happening, right? So we as women now have had our place in the workplace. It's now become our responsibility to be 50% of the household income, the household, so, you know, a head of household
or even more
position.
Yeah, than the 50%, right?
Right, because at the end of the day, and I think most men will agree with this, when it comes to children, you have a daughter. When it comes to children, biologically, we are just so in tune with being the provider and caretaker of that person and that human and that next generation of the world. And now we're mixing it with, if we're going to go back now, how do we leave this a better place for them? Because our grandmothers already fought for this.
Yeah.
So I think not only do we fight to get back the right that we lost, right? And the right we lost was not the right to abortion. The right we lost was the right to protection. The right to protection against a government mandated bodily choice.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the most important message that I have. But if you watch this podcast here, you know, one thing that I won't get too deep probably into my marriage and why it dissolved out of respect to my co-parent ex-husband who, regardless of our relationship, is an amazing father to my daughter.
And that's the most important thing
so
that you can take away.
It so is.
And he'll be in your life forever.
He knows
that.
He's probably going to watch this and be like, you talked about me. But out of respect to her and her future, you know, there'll be things that I won't talk about, but privately I've definitely talked about with people. And I want women to know, and anyone, not just women, men suffer too, silently, because we've been made to think, right, that marriage is an institution where you are okay to suffer because we suffer together. Like I can't tell you how many people, like when I would talk about some of the challenges I was having and would say, my husband too, like as they poured me my 3rd glass of wine, right?
Yeah.
We just gaslight each other to believe that like misery loves company. There's another way. And I think that some people can find it with a partner, but some people also need to go off on their own. And I'll tell you, men, my DMs are filled with your wives talking about how they're watching this journey of this like freedom. And people who have asked me, am I as happy as I look? I'm happier.
Nice. I'm so glad to hear that.
I am. It's not you know, listen, there are moments that are ugly, but.
We all have that, right? Everybody's got it. You just don't see it in the highlight reels, right?
The last thing that I'd like to ask you to do, and this is kind of going to be my tradition on the show, is I'd like you to write down a manifestation for your future, something that you are going to commit to saying every single day. And then over here, Mike, I don't know if you can hand me, but I'm going to give you one of those little things that flies up in the air.
Oh, I love it.
And this will manifestation, and you're now legally obligated to record it and tag me.
Okay. I love this. This is beautiful.
So if you could write down your manifestation.
And this is just for me.
This is just for you. It's going to go in my manifestation jar, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I want you to take this. This is going to be symbolic. This is going to put your manifestation into the universe.
Okay.
So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I won't look.
Okay.
While you do that, I just want to thank anybody who tuned in to episode 1 of Concast, anybody who I sent this to and said you have to watch this. I have a message, and I sell real estate, I sell houses, I buy houses for you. That's my passion. That is my engine that's driving my success right now. But at the end of the day, I also stand for you. And I want to make a difference in this world. And if I can do that by just making one person feel a little bit inspired today, then I feel like I did my job. So as Robin Williams said, I might just be one person in this world, but if I made a difference in someone else's life, then I've done my job. I don't know if that's the exact quote, but
I love it.
Thank you so much. Whew! Okay.
Yes, that's right.
We did it. We talked about some heavy stuff.
Yeah. It's life.
It's life, you know, and that's, listen, 7 billion people need to change the conversation.
You're going to notice that every time.
Every time now.
CON comes up.
Oh my God. But we need to change the conversation about what success looks like, what professionalism looks like, especially for women. We are humans, and we have lives, and we have responsibilities, but we have each other.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the one thing that we touched on earlier is that with everything going on in the world, right, if you break it down to its core, women, if we, regardless of what another woman in another state believes in, I can still fight for her rights, even if she's okay with not have those rights herself.
Yeah.
I can still fight for her, right?
Yeah.
And you can still fight for her.
Exactly.
And that's just on this one issue. But we're not one race, we're not one religion, we're women. And so thank you for being my woman today.
Thank you. God, what an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you guys. Tune in. I will have my next episode airing shortly. I've got a couple of guests in mind, but if you want to be featured on Convasations and you're okay with speaking about some controversial things confidently, I'm looking for entrepreneurs. I'm looking for women and men who are outspoken and can speak with respect, dignity, kindness and love, you know, not some of the things that have been in my DMs this last week. You know, rise above. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.